Go ahead and call this meeting of the Camarillo Airport Authority and Oxnard Airport Authority to order. And let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Director Bear, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and do a roll call for Camarillo Airport Authority.
Supervisor Vianney Lopez. Chair Tony Tremblay,
Here.
Vice Chair Scott Barrett,
Here.
and Supervisor Jeff Corral.
Here.
And for the record, Councilmember Susan Santangelo has been excused from tonight's meeting, but we do have a quorum.
That's great. Barbara, you want to do the honors for Oxnard?
Okay. We have Supervisor Vianney Lopez. Here. Councilmember Bert Porello.
Here.
Vice Chair Barbara Filkins. Here. And Supervisor Jeff Corral.
I'm here.
And then for the record, Chair Gabe Teran has been excused from tonight's meeting, but we do have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. And welcome to Supervisor Gorell, who's here, I think for the first time.
It is, yeah.
All right. We'll treat you right. All right. Agenda review, any items or any modification on any of the agenda items, Mr. Fred?
We do not have any changes or modifications tonight.
Okay, that's great. Let's go ahead and move to approval of the minutes. Do we have any comments on the minutes or any issues with respect to the minutes? If not, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
I'll move approval. I'll second. This for Camarillo.
Yeah, I got it
Yeah,
way ahead of it,
Camarillo.
didn't I?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now we can call the roll. Yeah, I guess we have to have one for Camarillo as well. Boy, I'm really ahead of it. Do I hear a motion for Camarillo?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
That's great. Okay, boy, I'm way out over my skis tonight. Now, Madam Clerk, may we please call the roll respectively for each airport authority?
We have Supervisor Vianney Lopez.
Yes.
Chair Tony Tremblay.
Yes.
Vice Chair Scott Barrett.
Yeah.
And Supervisor Jeff Corral.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously 4-0.
We had a motion for Oxnard as well.
Oh, yeah. Make a motion for Oxnard to approve minutes?
We have Supervisor Vianney Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Bert Porello. We have Vice Chair Barbara Bart Fulkin
Yes.
and Supervisor Jeff Corral.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously 3-0 with one abstention by Councilmember Morello. Thank you.
All right, great. I was never a particularly successful skier, so tonight has just completely validated that in terms of being out over my skis. Let's call at this point for any public comments. Are there any members of the public who wish to offer public comments to the authority on any items not on the agenda?
We do not have any public comment.
Nothing online? All right.
No.
We're in hybrid. Okay. Very well. Then we're going to go ahead and go to our regular agenda. Let me do this one first. I'll call the item A on for Camarillo and Oxnard Airport Authority, which is our receive and file staff report regarding our annual Wings Over Camarillo Air Show, which we have been looking forward to hearing all about.
Good evening, authority members. My name is Robert Trimborn. I'm the Director of Operations for the Wings Over Camarillo. I'm with Bill, know his last name, who is the air boss. I'm just kidding. So we're going to do a recap of our 2025 event. Next to the county fair, we're the second largest event in the county. John Lowe is the chair of the Camarillo Wings Association. They're like our parent company. And I'm Bob Trimborn, again, the air show director. And Bill Thomas is the air boss. He directs all the aircraft activities during the air show. I'll lean down. So this is the layout of our air show. It was the 44th annual. held August 16th and 17th. You can see the car show at the bottom, aircraft displays in the middle. Above that is our VIP pavilion, and beyond that is the STEM hangar. You can see the doors open, and to the right are the aircraft that participate in the air show. So the Wings Association is a 501c3, all volunteer nonprofit corporation. Our major sponsors are the Ventura County Department of Airports, the Commemorative Air Force based here at the airport, the EAA, Chapter 723 based here also, along with the Ventura County 99s, and of course, the city of Camarillo. Our mission is to promote the youth in science and aviation, further the education of Ventura County youth through the leadership and service. And the great thing about this event is we're more than just an air show or a car show. We donate to the local nonprofits that help us produce the event. And to date, we've given away about $751,000 to these organizations. And in 2 years, that'll be a cool $1 million donation to the nonprofits. And so we pride ourselves in helping to support those organizations that support us. So we preserve our aviation history. We remember our veterans, inspire the youth to explore aviation, showcase the unique aviation piloting skills, and share our aviation passion, and educate the community on the value and the services of this airport, and provide a display/recruiting venue for our military sponsors and vendors. So this year we honored the community responders to the mountain fire, and it's more than just the firefighters, but these represent the organizations that kind of stood in the background, but also helped coordinate the response. I'm not going to read through all their names, but there was quite a few, and they really had a great time at the event. We were honored to have them as Grand Marshals. So here's the major elements. We have the air show, of course, followed by the car show, the STEM pavilion, which is very, very successful, and the veterans hangar. We have exhibitors, we have aircraft displays, both civilian and military, commercial hard good vendors and food vendors, sponsors, volunteers, of course, parking and transportation, and the pyrotechnics that help during the air show itself. This year we had 16,500 attendees. There's a list of how it's all broken out. One of the things I want to focus on is 427 pilots and crew members that came in to help support the event. And that's all Bill Thomas's work. He brought all those people in. We have 21 volunteer organizations, and throughout the basically 4 days from Friday through Monday, we had 750 volunteers working the show, helping us set it up. Here's a list of all the volunteer support organizations. You can see there's a whole bunch of them. I'm not going to read them all, but of course, the city of Camarillo is prominently there, the Department of Airports, Boy Scouts, YMCA, the Rotary Club of Camarillo, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a lot of people stepping up to help us. We have a lot of sponsors. City of Camarillo, again, is prominently here, the Gene Haas Foundation, local Sun Air, Environment, all these organizations actually donate money and time, effort, and energy to help us put on the event also. We had over 27 food vendors, 65 hard good vendors. In the STEM pavilion, we had 26 exhibitors. AV, Haas, and the city of Camarillo were the major sponsors. And we had 45 volunteer shifts for that one pavilion. Over 57 air show performers were there. This is just snapshots of the ones that flew. We had an all-electric aircraft that flew during the event. And we had 90 participating aircraft from 56 separate entities, 15 active military aircraft on display, including the C-17, C-130, E-2C Hawkeyes, for a grand total of 427 pilots and crew members. The car show numbered 265 cars, big part of the event now. We have the car parade when we're recovering the parachutists. We always run the car parade. It's a great time, and it's great cars on display. And of course, last but not least, of course, is a veterans hangar where we had veterans basically representing all of the conflicts that the country's been through, including we had some World War II vets. So it takes a team, a big crew to run this show. And this is a list of all the individuals that step up and help lead the charge to make this event happen. It just doesn't happen with a few people, but this is our team. We have meetings starting in January that run all the way through to August. We actually have 2 meetings in August to put the event on those 2 great days in August every year. So it's a big time team effort. And I want to thank those people that do step up and volunteer their time without pay to help put on this event. But the looming issue we have for this event is parking. So we had about 17,000 people here over 2 days. Those cars take up a lot of space at this airport. Into the future, as the airport becomes more fully developed, the parking capacity of the air show will diminish. So we need to address those going forward into the future. Going off-site parking is very expensive. We have to get lots of buses. They have to run lots of trips. And we only have really 2 roads in to the air show grounds. And it's fed off of Pleasant Valley Drive. And so mixing cars and the buses, we've looked at it all. It's very expensive. It's a cumbersome operation. But to keep it at the capacity of 17,000, which is about our sweet spot, the parking capacity is going to be the biggest challenge going forward. And with that, I didn't let Bill talk, but answer any questions you might have.
For the authority, since you are supervisors and city council and the airport, it's going to take all 4 organizations in order to be able to solve the parking issue. The Camarillo Wings Association is not capable of doing it on its own. So it's going to be a county, city, and Department of Airports joining us to figure out how to take care of the traffic.
Yes. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Let me first, does anybody have any questions? I'm sure some folks may have some comments. Anybody want to weigh in? I'll go ahead and take that leap first. Number one, as a member of the Rotary Club of Camarillo, it's been my privilege. We were talking about this beforehand, just before the meeting. I think I've worked the second beer booth for Rotary every year for the last 5 or 6 years. It is. Thank you. Yeah, but it is always astonishing to me to see how much alcohol is consumed prior to midday. But on the serious side, one of the really important things, and I want to applaud the association for its devotion to having nonprofits come in and then in turn receive funds, because it helps us in Rotary and Camarillo to fund the youth scholarships and a whole bunch of community service funding that our club wants to do. The second thing is I really want to pay tribute to all of the work that you do. The number of moving parts, and I'm not referring to the planes, the number of moving parts in this air show is just extraordinary. And to be able to, from a logistics standpoint and an organizational standpoint, have it all come together and have it all come together in my mind seamlessly is outstanding. So I really want to pay tribute to you for all of your efforts and all the efforts of all of the volunteers. It sure takes a lot of folks to put this on. The one question I get every year is, are the F-18s going to be there?
That is,
So that's actually my only question to you tonight. Do you anticipate at some point the F-18s coming back?
That's a 2-part question. The demonstration F-18s, there's only one demo team on the West Coast. We got them 2 out of 3 years, which was totally unrealistic. And I think that the second year, everybody was up for office said, will you please not have the F-18s come back next year until after the election? But we will have F-18s, and I'm trying to get some of the other active, like F-35s for static, but so far they haven't allowed them to do statics at a non-military base airfield. But I anticipate plenty of F-18s coming from Lemoore and China Lake as far as being on display, but probably not flying.
Okay, well, I always get those questions from residents, and then I ask, of course, purely from a selfish, my own personal standpoint, whether they're going to be there. Supervisor Guerrero.
Yeah, quick question. Is the date selected for next year?
15 and 16 August, I think is the weekend, it's the third weekend in August. I'm pretty sure it's the
Okay, but that, though, the third weekend has been
third
selected.
weekend. Is
Every year.
always sort of
Okay.
hot thing to- Keeps us far enough away from the fair. And I had to get the tail lift in a few.
Oh, I see. And then does the parking challenge that you've raised here tonight have to be fixed before then? Or is this a long-term goal based upon challenges?
I would have to defer to the airport director.
I'd just be interested to hear feedback on whether this is something that causes you to stay up at night now for next year's event, or if this is a long-term challenge related to ongoing construction.
I have to say, last year I stayed up at night. This year we did.
So the challenge is, as you know, Supervisor, we have a lot of vacant land in the business park, and that's what they use for parking. So as we, over the years, develop those parcels or lease them out, most recently, several years ago, for new cars from Port Hueneme, we were collecting $50,000 a month in revenue, which we're required to do those kinds of things, per the FAA. So those are some of the logistics problems. But the long term, as you mentioned, is really the issue. As we develop those parcels, they'll start going away. That's the challenge.
And sounds like a conversation that we could roll over to another night with greater detail, but I'm curious. I know that it sometimes in other air shows for example, on Navy bases that I've attended, they will set aside parking on the tarmac. Is that an option possibly in the
Yeah,
future?
it's unfair when you compare us to Navy military bases that have, 10 square miles of concrete to park. We don't have those, and the air show itself uses most of the airfield for their air show operations, car operations. So yeah.
A single runway. We do have a second runway that they use for parking. We just have a single runway and the overrun up where the pyro is. And so we're pretty much stuck with the terrain that eventually the lot.
It's a challenge. We've looked at all the options.
Sky,
Believe me, we've looked at.
Sky, Barbara, anybody on part of the Oxnard?
From the air show perspective,
Yeah, any question?
I don't.
Okay.
I'd also like to recognize Allison Barker. She's the one that kind of spearheaded the development of the STEM program. It's now become wildly successful. The children just love it. It's just a great.
My boys love it, so thank you. It's amazing. I moved the receiving file. That's not too early.
I think Mr. Perrella wants to be heard. Thank you, Supervisor. Bert?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate the hard work you do. I appreciate the ability to fundraise for the organizations that you do. I also want to not avoid the opportunity to thank you for your concerns with the animal safety and the animal protection group, which sometimes people don't realize that you go out of your way to try to take care of the best you can. It's terrific when we get these reports back and you talk about how many people went through it. So tremendous work. Thank you all. Thank you for the presentation.
All right, I think we're concluded on that. It would just be, without objection, we'll just have a receive and file, and thank you again for all of your work. That'll bring us to agenda item B, which is our monthly staff update from Jeanette regarding community engagement.
Good evening to you all. My name is Jeanette Haregi. I'm the Communications and Engagement Manager and Public Information Officer for the Department of Airports. As you know, the Department of Airports began highlighting little-known stories about Oxnard and Camarillo airports through periodic short features designed to not only put a spotlight on those who tirelessly serve the community, but to also help educate the community about a portion of the airports that is often overlooked. Tonight, I eagerly share our 15th story in the series, focusing on the annual Aviation Career Day event. And you'll see some pictures here circulating of the event this year. In 2019, the Ventura County 99s closed out their Aviation Career Day event, eagerly looking forward to planning the 2020 event. The annual event had come to draw several hundred attendees from throughout Ventura County after its inception in 2014. Parents, teachers, and chaperones, all eager to feed the inspiration and love for aviation into the minds of the local students they brought with them. Then March of 2020 came, and everything changed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. No one knew at the time that the next Aviation Career Day would be put on hold until 2024. 5 years was a long time. When planning began for the 2024 event, no one from the 99s or their partnering event sponsors knew what to expect. The hope was for enough interest to at least mostly fill the west hangar of the Commemorative Air Force Museum. About 400 people, primarily middle and high school students, attended the 2024 event, and it was an overall success with a good amount of positive feedback. The event was officially back up and running. When planning began for 2025, the hope was to draw in at least 500 students and add a few more aviation-focused exhibitor tables. By late September, only a couple weeks before the event, there were 1,300 people registered. On the day of the event, more than 1,000 attended, with approximately 900 of those being middle and high school students from throughout Ventura County, including Fillmore, Santa Paula, Moore Park, Simi Valley, Camarillo, Ventura, and Thousand Oaks. The goal hadn't only been met, it had been doubled. There were more than 20 aviation-focused exhibitor tables and activities offered to guests, with planes and drones on display on the ramp just outside the event location at the Commemorative Air Force Museum. Students had direct access to the Ventura County Aviation Unit, STEM resources, including a hands-on drone cage offered through FathomWorks, a Make Garbage Fly contest, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, local fixed-base operators, nonprofits, including the 99s and Experimental Aircraft Association, and aviation-focused education programs offered through CSU Channel Islands and California Aeronautical University. We were worried about what we were offering because several of our government partners had to back out because of the shutdown, said Barbara Filkins, coordinator of this year's Aviation Career Day. And while we missed them, the event was still a huge success thanks to our planning team and event partners. Most impactful, perhaps, is that the event either introduced or fed existing dreams of careers in aviation for local youth who may not otherwise have access to making those dreams take flight. Filkins summed up the success of the event with a sentiment shared by Christine Schifferly, superintendent of the Fillmore Unified School District. This is the first field trip we have done where all of the students we brought thanked us, she said. And while Filkins noted improvements that need to be made for the 2026 event, it was apparent that the focus of the event, which was the student experience, had been achieved. Information regarding the next Aviation Career Day event, including how to become involved and how to attend, will become available in the summer of 2026. And I want to thank Barb and Allison for all the work and information you've given me for this, and I'll take any questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. I think, Madam Chair, has some, Supervisor Lopez or Madam Chair?
Yeah, I had asked Allison to come tonight. Undertaking this year, she kind of passed the baton, so to speak, on Career Day and on STEM Day. I won't talk for Dawn Maloney, who took over STEM Day or the STEM Pavilion. That was successful. But I want to acknowledge that what we achieved this year, and I'm going to get a little teary here, sorry, Allison, wouldn't have been without your help and support. I mean, and I think there's one thing you said one time in a presentation, working with the students and the youth tends to keep us young. So thank you.
Any Supervisor Lopez?
Well, thank you, Barb, for dedicating this and recognizing the opportunities to invest in our youth and the future um, pilots and those entering these spaces. So thank you for having that heart and recognizing that. And just wanted to generally get a sense of where you mentioned Fillmore being one of the school sites and how we can continue to share this and spread it throughout the county.
So Barb might be able to touch more on that, but I think every region of Ventura County was covered in the attendance and including those regions that don't generally have access to the airports. So I don't know, Barb, if you want to add to that.
I just say that was one of my goals this year is to try to get some of those outlying areas into career day and succeeded. We had 17 buses, I think, that actually came. And AV also was very generous in their sponsorship. So we were able to support some of the busing to the schools directly. So it was quite a team effort.
Thank you. Yeah, well done. Thank you.
And that is what Barb just mentioned about busing. That's a challenge that a lot of the schools that aren't nearby face in having access to field trips, even to the airports. So that's a critical resource.
Bert.
I would just like to thank the two young ladies for your involvement in this thing. I'll tell you from a former student and an adult who gets taken on tour buses, the speaker made one line that impressed me, really impressed me. Everybody got off the bus and thanked them for the tour. There's been a lot of times that I've been on tours and it's like, why did we come to this thing? This is a big deal. And also, I live in Oxnard, but I can speak for people that I know who live in Fillmore. The fact that Fillmore is involved, a big deal. Because there is a perception sometimes that the smaller cities in this county get the short end of the stick. I can't say that's a fact, but I know there's a perception. So thank you very much, Will. Thank you.
I just wanted to give a compliment as well. I'm personally aware of families, kids in Camarillo who are excited to do this. And then the question I had is, given the very large turnout, the success of this, is some of that done through, particularly the outreach, is it done to the school districts through the County Office of Education? Is that how you're doing it? Or how is it, how are you doing the outreach?
And then I think CAU was their outreach gal was very proactive in doing the outreach. And then I think also Lisa Eklund helped us a lot. So there were some real points to make the outreach connections this year.
Okay, good. Because for example, I know the county superintendent, the school superintendents through the county all meet the K-12 superintendents on a regular basis. So I'm sure that if they're aware of this, they can push it out and make sure that all of the K-12, public K-12s, and then there are a whole lot of private and charter K-12s as well. So.
Yeah. Now we have to live up to that next year.
Very well. Great work. Thank you again, Allison. Thank you, Barb, and to everybody associated with the event. Jeanette, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a receive and file item, so not hearing any objection, we'll go ahead and receive and file. That'll bring us to item C, which is a receive and file report on the effectiveness and efficiency of the aviation Aviation Advisory.
So as mentioned, this is just a receive and file an update. Several months ago, members of the Aviation Advisory Commission asked that an item be put on their agenda to discuss the effectiveness and efficiency of the Aviation Advisory Commission, mostly based on the fact they saw redundancies in their agenda versus the airport authority agendas for Camarillo and Oxnard. So that's what was on the agenda last night. I can go through the history if you'd like, but the bottom line is in 1930s, Ventura County had one airport. They built one airport, Oxnard Airport. 1976, decommissioning of this airport, Camarillo, went to the county, and that created airport authorities through joint powers agreement, 1976 with city of Camarillo and the county, and then Oxnard followed in 1980. So now all of a sudden you have these three entities that kind of do the same thing. So in quick summary, there were members that were concerned of this redundancy. Why have three committees that kind of do the same thing? That's their question. On the other side was, I'll say, community members, stakeholders that feel removing the AAC or changing it might diminish their ability to communicate with the supervisors and Department of Airports on airport issues. So those are the kind of two sides, but had a long, good discussion last night. In the end, it ended with, let's bring this back and think about what we could do with the AAC to make it better. There were ideas, and I even shared with 30 plus years of doing this, and in particular, the last 3 years for the Department of Airports going through the noise Part 150 study at both communities. The most effective thing of those meetings, those public meetings we had, was the end where we had an open mic live. You have questions, we will do our best right now to answer those questions. As you know, these meetings are guided by the Brown Act, restricted, whatever you want to call it, by the Brown Act. So we have an agenda item, somebody comes up and has their 2 minutes of public comment, nobody can respond to that until later after the fact. So maybe there's a mechanism in which it's coffee with the airport staff, quarterly, that would have a free flowing information, and then that information is brought back to the authority, something like that. And those are ideas that were thrown out there. Anyway, bottom line is AAC is going to bring this back to their body. Obviously, they report to the Board of Supervisors and want to get their support if there's going to be a recommendation for changes. But at this point, it's bring it back to them to come up with ideas and see what the best way moving forward is. It might be leaving it as is. So they kind of have all options of. So
Okay, so it sounds like a process that's going forward.
it is at this point. Again,
Okay.
I won't say the meeting started out a little testy, but ended very productive, and it was a good dialogue. It really was. So.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. Questions from Mr. Crulla?
Yes, what was the turnout for the meeting?
We were short a quorum. The last person flew in to LAX and had to drive. So at 6:55, we had a quorum, 25 minutes late, went through the other items. Members of the public, we had 3 in-person folks and 4 online, total of 7.
Thank you. The reason I ask, I was bombarded with a lot of input and many more than just the number you've given here.
Well,
Not challenging you.
no.
There comes a time for the public to, lack of a better way to say it, put up or shut up. You've got to get involved. You can't sit back. You got to get involved.
Yes, there was definitely a social media information that was put out before even the agenda was put out. So that it was, put out before the facts. And there was a misunderstanding that last night was going to be a vote to disband the AAC, which was not the case. When the agenda came out, it was clearly not the direction.
And I'll just ask a follow-up question, somewhat related. Is there ever a thought of having whatever happens in the future, if this organization stays in place, of having an agenda item on this body to give us an update on what happened at the previous meeting?
It's big enough item that it will, as I just did, we'll put it on this agenda so that you have an update, at minimum at the director's report. But yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
I know there's going to be a public comment, but hold on just a second. Are there any other questions from members of the authority? Supervisor Lopez.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the update, Mr. Fridas. So just for clarification, the item is the committee asked for the item to come back with options for them to consider, or for further discussion on what can be done differently.
Further discussion. There were options that were put in, and you'll see them in tonight's agenda as well. But it's really them getting together and how do they discuss the issue? Do they create an ad hoc committee, send them off to do some work? So they're starting from scratch. It would probably be the best way to answer that.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Fair?
I think your concept of coffee with the airport staff is an interesting one. And I think it's worth considering because of the fact it's not constrained by the Brown Act. But I think it's important that if you're going to do something like that, that high-level Department of Airports people participate. So that the public feels like they're talking to, well, you're here at this meeting and you're attending those meetings and people have access to you as the director. The other thought I had was that it's worth considering, I think, doing something as an experiment and maybe putting the AAC on hold for 6 months or so and try a different format to see if it works before we commit to anything. Just a thought.
I will pass that on to the group. It will do that work to make a recommendation ultimately to the board, but yes. Okay.
Any other questions before I turn it over for public comment? All right, Mr. Thomas, Bill Thomas.
Okay, so this is Bill Thomas. I'm speaking as the alternate public member and a public member of the group. Since I've been involved with this for 20 plus years, a little bit of history is important because the folks at the desk, Bert's probably the longest running. The authority is pretty much political. The Aviation Commission are all appointed by two people each from each of the 5 supervisors. So they cover the entire county, whereas the typical airport authority covers the 2 districts that are involving Camarillo and Oxnard. So the Aviation Advisory Commission really has a lot further reach theoretically if it were to be used differently. So one of the heartburns is that the commission and the authority end up with the same agenda, which then locks you in with the Brown Act and all as far as communication and discussion. I think that we talked last night a little bit about having the Aviation Commission sort of rethink maybe their role and figure out with the supervisors that they represent how they can get a larger reach into the community instead of just having a meeting where theoretically they have the meeting and then report back to the supervisors on what was done and what was not done. But again, the 3 supervisors that typically don't come to the airport authority meeting don't hear a lot of this, and usually the only time you hear something is when it's bad, and then you have to take emergency actions, which nobody likes to do. So I think that part of the discussion that Keith and the advisory commission really need to look at is there a better way to get the Aviation Advisory Commission to be a 2-way street for both taking in information and being able to put down stray rumors and weird discussions that have no relevance to reality. And I think that there's a lot of ways that that could happen, but they need to figure that out. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments with respect to this item? All right, hearing none. Thank you. We'll go ahead and do a receive and file on this without objection. We'll receive and file. And we're going to move to item D, and Madam Chair, turn it over to you.
For the record, there was no public comment for item 6A or 6B.
Thank you.
Do I wait till VNA comes back in the room? He just stepped out.
I think it's up to you. Sure. Up to you.
Well, when we do the approval,
Since it's off. You want to take a recess for a minute?
or do you want to do Camarillo? I know it's out of order.
Sure. Any objection to doing Camarillo?
He's on camera. else.
Well, Camarillo is item E. It's the next one out. One,
But she's on. board.
Yeah, she's on both.
that's true. Okay.
Short
So why don't we just take a short recess for a
Okay.
minute?
Okay, next agenda item is 60, approval of the Part 150 noise study. And Erin, take it away.
Good evening, Vice Chair Filkins, authority members, Erin Powers, Deputy Director of Airports, one of two. I'm here. It's my pleasure tonight to be here to speak with you about the Part 150 noise compatibility study for Oxnard Airport. After we went through a period of time where we saw an increase in noise concerns from the community about the airport, pursued a pair of federal grants to fund a noise compatibility study, one for Oxnard, and we also did one for Camarillo Airport. And the purpose of the study was really to help us evaluate the noise generated by Oxnard Airport and to help us look at potential options to mitigate the noise. The study kicked off in October of 2022, and the first half of the study was really focused on developing noise exposure maps to help define where the noise contours were. The second half of the study focused on the compatibility measures, and this is really what a lot of the community was focused on, is because it's what is the airport going to do about the noise? What elements are eligible potentially for federal funding? And if not, what local measures can the airport take to help relieve some of the community concerns? The study, over the life of the study, we did a great amount of outreach. We had 4 planning advisory committee meetings, and these PAC meetings had a wide membership. We put out requests for applications and pretty much accepted anyone that wanted, that applied. So this included, though, the city's planning staff from the city of Oxnard, the city of Camarillo. We had representatives from the aviation community, businesses, pilots, and we also had some neighborhood council members that also joined the PAC to be able to provide feedback into the process. We also, following the PAC meetings, we also held 4 public meetings, and we also included public comment periods after each of those public meetings. The meetings and the materials were also provided in Spanish, and we had interpretation in Spanish and Mixteco at each of the public settings. And now finally, 3 years later, the study document is ready to be finalized. And so we are taking it through the process last night at the advisory commission, tonight before the authority. We hope to take this before the full board of supervisors in January. And then if the studies are approved, we would then take submit the study to the FAA in the January, February timeframe following board approval. Staff therefore is requesting that the Board of Supervisors approve the compatibility planning study, authorize the director to make minor modifications to the study documents if requested by the FAA. Most of these we would anticipate might be just minor procedural adjustments. And then also find that the Part 150 noise study is categorically exempt from CEQA. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Authority members, any questions to ask of Ms. Powers? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the information, but it has come to my attention that there is a something under minor modifications. Sometimes people can think of a minor modification as maybe a little mouse hole or something to get through the wall, or something is big enough to put a truck through it. So I'd like to read a statement into the record.
Okay.
Thank you for your work with the staff at the City of Oxnard. The city is not supportive of community noise equivalent levels, commonly referred to as CNEL, that are in conflict with the adopted, I want to repeat it, with the adopted Comprehensive Airport Land Use Plan, commonly referred to as the CLUP. The city supports the CNEL regulations and policy approaches that continue the adopted, again, repeat, adopted 60 to 65 CNEL threshold. I'd also encourage you to continue working with the city staff that they have a role in the CLUP update. And those are my comments. And I, again, appreciate your staff working with the city, but I wanted that on the record. There will be a letter sent to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. I know that we worked closely to come to mutually agreeable language before we finalized, and I'm happy to receive the letter. It will be part of the package. Any other comments or questions?
Well, actually, I have a question to Bert. How would you go about, or maybe this would be directed for you, so I don't know. How would you go about doing that type of alignment? Or what, is there a process? Or is it just something we would have to work through?
Sure. That would be a minor adjustment. It's already fixed to that. And this is going to be new information that comes in and changes. So if there's a change, and that I was informed, but I trust myself. I said, work with the city of McLean. Sign on.
Okay.
We're happy to follow up with this, Councilman, for sure. We actually did work with the city of Oxnard. They had some concerns over the 60 to 65 versus the 60 CNEL. And we actually made changes to the draft document, and the version going forward, which is available on the study website, incorporated the city's requested changes. And I believe that we are at a place that is in agreement with the city of Oxnard, because we worked hard not to move forward without that understanding. So we can definitely follow up to make sure that there's no loose ends.
Share with the president here. These are not concerns from the past. These are concerns shared today and yesterday. This is
Okay. So if we call for a vote, we want to make a motion?
Sorry, Chair. So clarification on that, if there is something that still needs to be worked out, do we still take action today, or is there enough authority with the recommended action to allow for any adjustments before it goes to the Board of Supervisors and then for approval to the FAA?
Could that be a motion?
Sure.
The answer is yes. I think there's enough flexibility to move forward tonight, first of all. Two is, I want to say, be very clear, is we have federal guidelines we were following, and what the city, what we're doing does not override what the city does and their mandates and their regulations. So they don't necessarily always match. We think we did a pretty good job with the city. Candidly, very surprised by today's comment, because we've been working the last several months with the city on final language. caught a little off guard, but if there's tweaks we can make, which we, there's some gray areas that we could do in the community, in the which we did. But that only goes so far because we follow the FAA's guidelines on that. And what we do does not override local cities' jurisdiction and purview. So.
Yes, so it's, if I understand correctly, that with us moving this item forward, would still allow for the city to work with the department to clarify that discrepancy or that the difference. Yes, yeah, so if I would move the recommended action with a specific direction that there be follow-up with the city of Oxnard on the clarification with the comment presented
Absolutely.
by Councilmember Perrello.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Here we have Vianney Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Bert Perrello.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Barbara Bolton,
Yes.
and Supervisor Jeff Burrell.
Yes.
I think that motion passes unanimously 4-0.
All right, we'll go ahead then and flip back over to item E on the flip side for Camarillo Airport Authority and approval of the 14 CFR Part 150 NCP study for Camarillo.
Thank you, Chair Tremblay and authority members. Much like the presentation for Oxnard, before you tonight, we have the same recommendations for the Camarillo Part 150 noise compatibility study that we are asking that your authority recommend the Board of Supervisors approve. I'm sorry, I think I need to. So I'm happy to answer any questions for the Camarillo study, should you have them.
Mr. Bear.
Can you explain briefly, paragraph 3 or part 3 about exempt from CEQA? I don't know enough about CEQA to meaningfully evaluate that. Can you explain it a little bit?
Yes, I believe that as a planning study without without an action mechanism, it is exempt. So it is a categorical exemption that is frequently used for this type of study.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions from authority members relative to this item? Are there any members of the public? Do we have any public comments on this item, Madam Clerk?
No, there's no public comment.
All right. I think we're going to move to a motion quickly here, but I just wanted to provide compliments to the airport staff. It's been a long, long road and a long process for the Department of Airport staff. And I think all of you have done an exemplary job in this. It certainly has turned out to be a longer process than you might have once anticipated. But from a community outreach and transparency standpoint, I really want to compliment you. I think it's very well done. In any event, do I hear a motion?
One last thing, to borrow from Camarillo City Council, ditto.
And with that, do I hear a motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
We have Vianney Lopez,
Yes.
Tony Tremblay,
Yes.
Scott Bear,
Yes.
and Jeff Burrell.
Yes.
Okay, and that item passes unanimously 4-0. And just for the record, there was no public comment for item 6D.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to item F, which is the review, discussion, and recommended modifications relative to an RFP pertaining to land here at the airport.
Yes, so going back historically, we had talked about several months ago, two businesses here at Camarillo that expressed interest in developing parcels adjacent to their existing businesses. We started with a letter of interest. We had submitted that out for solicitation, competitive interest. We got multiple interested parties in each of these two parcels. And we most recently reported to this, to the authorities, Camarillo Airport Authority, that our next step was to do a request, an RFQ, request for proposals or request for qualifications on the parcel that had and the slide we'll put up real quick, had 49 hangars on it. So in that, we said, well, our next step again is to do a request for proposals to do competitive interests in development improvements on those sites. During the last meeting, it was brought up, I think, by member Bearer that, well, maybe we should look at improving or repairing those hangars and broadening that RFP language. So in talking with Chair Tremblay, that was what we. And here's the videos of those hangars and the rust that we have. Yeah, if you go to the overview slide, it has so those are the 49 hangars. The ones that are in rust color are the ones that are in such poor shape we can't rent them at this point. There's 15 of them out of the 49. So that's what we're looking at, is trying to improve that again. We've got somebody that came unsolicited and was interested in developing the site. As I mentioned previously, if the winning proposal isn't to replace like hangars, we would require that like hangars be provided somewhere else on the airport. We have the property to do so. So at this point, it's the language tweaking. We proposed something in this document of language that would broaden just development, but also repairs of those facilities. So that's the language you see here. Some of the concerns that we've heard to date, obviously the 34 or so remaining tenants there are concerned. They have a camaraderie in that area. They pay a certain rent because those are 40-year-old facilities that are not in the best shape. They obviously are concerned about, staying together in the same area and the costs that might be associated with improved hangars. We have neighboring entities like the Aircraft Association, things like Young Eagles that butts to this area to the east. So they run events, and so their concern would be with that. And then we have neighbors. Well, what kind of development is going to happen? Is that more aircraft, larger aircraft? So those are all things that we will consider in this process as we go through it. But at this point, it's kind of our responsibility to solicit competitive interest, see what is being proposed, kind of rank those, and then move those through AEC, through the airport authorities, and then onto the board if we ultimately had a lease for some sort of improvement development. The challenge, some of the questions that have also come up is, why don't you just repair those? I'll put it in perspective for you. We just painted and repaired 6 hangars at Oxnard. 6 hangars cost us $208,000. So if you extrapolate those numbers to the 49 hangars, you're talking 1.7 million. And these are in worse shape than those are. So now, you're dumping good money into old, 40-year-old facilities. They've definitely met their lifespan, but the difficulty is how they were poorly designed. Like a house, they drain away from the front. Well, they're all butted up to each other. So the back is where they're all rusting around the sides. The drainage was not designed as it should have been. We even several years ago, before my time, 6-7 years ago, tried to get an outside entity to help us with what we could do to preserve them. And their starting idea was to create a roof over the top of these large rows to protect the rain from coming on the top, but that doesn't protect the rain that sheets on the pavement. So, anyway, so the cost just kept going up. But really, it's about the language to open up all opportunities so we can see what options we have and make the best choice as we move it up through the system. That's my quick speak.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Reyes. Do we have?
Oh, yeah.
I think we have thoughts from authority members. Time to recognize that. And then we'll move to public comments later.
First of all, I appreciate the effort to look at the option of repair or some sort of refurbishment. as directors, we talked about earlier today, I think this proposed RFP language is confusing and I sent you some that might be a little more clear. The way I read this is that an entity who might want to come in to repair the hangars also has to propose redevelopment of the entire area. And I think it should be an either or an and or. I mean, at the choice of the proposer. They can either do a proposal to redevelop the whole area and also, if that's not acceptable, to repair the hangars, or they can choose one or the other. And I think the RFP should be made clear that whoever is going to respond has that option. And that's the language that I banged together real quickly today and sent over to you. And I'd sure like to see something a little more along those lines.
And I would quickly respond. Thank you for the effort on that, by the way. But two is we want to broaden this because we want all options on the table. I mean, that's to our benefit to evaluate all those options that are out there. So that will help us get there.
And thus my point that it should be clear that whoever's responding doesn't have to redevelop the whole area. They can just come in and refurbish the hangars if that's what they want to do, and they can do it on some economically viable basis.
Right.
So I just think the language needs to be tweaked to make that clear that whoever is responding has that option.
Before I call for any public comments, are there any other questions from authority members? Mr. Perla?
Airport.
Oh, we'll give you dispensation.
Thank you very much. Number one, all of these hangars are public owned or are any of them private?
They're all public. They're owned by the county from there.
And I think I heard you say that some of them are not able to be used currently because of the condition they're in?
Yes, the ones that were in rust color,
rust
were
color.
15 of the 49.
Are any of those that are in use close to being rust color?
Yes, that's our problem is that, they're all the same age. So they're just progressing, and that's why we'd have to deal with all of them sooner than later. We'd just keep chasing that problem.
This
Yes.
gets to the heart of my question. Now that we know that there are problems here and we have some that could be in the rust color, what's the liability to this agency or the county with respect if somebody gets hurt or something goes wrong with something? Who's on the hook here?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to speculate, liability.
And I know we've had
Born and
this.
raised in California, we all know where that's going to go, right? So,
Well, I know that one member on this body and I have agreed in the times that I wish that there was a county council at some of these meetings and they could maybe answer some of those questions, but that's a question that I have. If we know there's a liability, I know at least in the city of Oxnard, sir,
I'll
if something
make
comes
it
up
simple
and it's
for
on
you.
the record, then we know that there's an issue and they got to get taken because we're on the hook.
So the simple answer is if we know there's a problem, a liability, we will address it and we will remove somebody from the hangars immediately. There's no questions about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I think we have one other comment from Director Bear.
Just to respond to Mr. Perillo, am I correct in remembering that the lease language has hold harmless language in it? That if someone's in the hangar and they're leasing it or renting it from the county, they're holding the county harmless if should something happen. I just have this vague recollection.
We don't know that specific answer. We could research that and bring that back to the next. Or we could walk around the corner and maybe have an answer for you in a minute or two.
All right, why don't we, while we're waiting on that part of it, why don't we ask whether or not there are any public comments on this item? Madam Clerk, do you have any members of the public wishing
There's
to
no
comment?
public comment.
Anybody in the audience wishes to public comment? Yes, sir. Great, if you could provide us. your name.
Council staff. My name is Mike Adams.
Thank you.
I've live in a resident of Oxnard, been a pilot for 20 years plus. Recently, and I say recently, within the last 2 years, I was introduced to Experimental Aviation Association. Personally, I've been in private education facilities for more than 40 years. And so I have an educational bent to how I operate. I was exposed to Young Flyers, Aviation Explorers, with Allison, STEM program, and with Barbara, Aviation Career Day. It has been wonderful, and it's been a lovely addition to my life. What I really find with Aviation Explorers and Aviation Explorers and the youth Young Flyers is that there is, and the director had mentioned this word, there's a camaraderie down there. And it is it's a lovely symbiotic relationship between EAA and the other hangar members in that area. So it creates there's a camaraderie there, as he had mentioned, and there's a community, for lack of a better word. There's a real community at the area. And if it got raised and developed into something that's completely different, it would change the tenor and the feeling that everybody would have there. So just from my point of as an educator, it just really makes for a wonderful addition to EAA and what EAA is doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Any other public comments? Can we turn back to staff for a minute, because I think staff is going to answer Mr. Bearer's question. Well, kind of. Okay. Well, we don't have Mr. Temple here, so.
So in the county hangar lease, there's actually two sections, Director Bearer, it's section 5 and section 7. Section 5, the lessee releases the lessor for claims or damage for loss or damage to lessee's property. And then indemnifies lessor and saves lessor harmless from costs and expense, including attorney fees, liability claims, and demands for loss or damage of property or injury or death to persons. Then in section 7, it says lessor will not be responsible for theft, loss, injury, damage, or destruction of the property thereon or therein, or accident or injury to lessee. It being specifically understood that the amount of charges fixed for this lease is for the privilege of aircraft storage only. So I'm not an attorney, but I'm sure there's various ways to pick that apart for depending on your point. But yes, there is some language in the lease regarding that.
Thank you.
Any other? Barbara?
I know I'm not on the Camarillo Authority,
No, it's okay, Mr. Perello. That's a good question too. Okay.
but one of the things that I would be interested in seeing as part of the RFP is some idea of what the selection criteria would be, since you're potentially looking at projects that are apples and oranges. And I think that would be worth putting into the procurement document. Maybe not at the detailed level of the selection committee, but enough that the respondents to the proposal have a good idea of the guidance.
So I can answer that now, knowing that that question might come up. So we do that driven for each of the development, and I just am going to give you the one we just recently did for Oxnard to give an idea. So this won't be the same because we have different stakeholders and issues that we might have here. So at Oxnard, it was the FBO site when it came up a year or two ago. So we had 20% that was related to project land use site, including quality type, amount of commercial aviation use, and using new technologies, 20%. This is a rating criteria. Provides City of Oxnard community benefit, which may include special events, community outreach, education programs, etc., 10%. Regional economic impact enhancement, aviation business opportunities at the airport, 10%. Developers' financial strength and projected financial plan, including ground lease, other business terms, 30%. Overall qualifications, track record, relevant experience development of the team, 20%. Compliance with airport master plan, prevailing policies, 5%, proposed development schedule, 5%. So those are the kinds of things we do. As I mentioned, we have tenants that are there if the proposal is to develop that to something different. Well, how are you accommodating those folks? We have neighbors in the community that are concerned about large jets, more jets coming in from Old Town. How are you accommodating those concerns? The EAA uses the ramp next to this facility. How would you accommodate and partner with them and their Young Eagles program and other events? So those are how we structure the percentage when we're ranking. So folks know going in when they're proposing, whatever that is, fixing the hangars or whatever that is, how you're addressing these. That's kind of an example.
All right, thank you very much. This is an action item, I believe, and so what I've heard, let me try to distill what I've heard. I've heard the staff report. I agree with what is in the staff report. I also agree with what Member Bear has said, and knowing that you have indicated, Director Freitas, that you're supportive of having as many options as possible. I'm wondering whether it'd be appropriate for someone to make a motion that the authority recommend. Well, it's to the Department of Airports. I don't know whether it ultimately goes to the Board of Supervisors, but recommends to the Department of Airports that the RFP be structured in the manner set forth in the staff report as modified by Mr. Bear's recommendations and commensurate with the discussion this evening. That's sort of a form of motion.
Tweak
I'm wondering
along the
whether or not-
lines of what's recommended. Yes, this does not go to the board. It's not a board item.
Okay.
We just would put out the RFP.
All right.
Yes.
If there's agreement as to that, an elegant way of stating it, could I hear a motion?
Go ahead, Jim. No, your motion, I'll move that, we ask staff to modify the proposed language along the lines of what we've discussed here tonight, making it clear that there are options.
Second that. All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Vianney Lopez,
Yes.
Chair Tony Tremblay,
Yes.
Vice Chair Scott Bear,
Yeah.
and Supervisor Jeff Burrell.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously 4-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Chair Filkins, I'm turning it back over to you. Well, we have a director's report, but I was going to turn it back over to you for the rest of the agenda.
Well, then,
You've heard enough from me tonight.
director's report.
All right, director's report. I have just a few items. First is a video. I mentioned a few meetings ago that we had partnered and leased space with Hart Aerospace, a Swedish company that's located to LA region, and their focus is electric engines. The funny part is you can barely hear the engine over the wind, it's like a vehicle driving around, taking pictures of it. That's all wind noise out. You actually can barely hear it, but kind of a cool thing. Doing some testing there at Oxnard Airport outside on the ramp. Next item, Fathom Works Summit. The Department of Airports and the CEOs, the County Administrator's Office, Economic Vitality Group did a short opening. Supervisor Gorell was at that event. We kind of, they launched their innovation, Autonomous Innovation Center for the county. And we kind of spoke about Area 805, Advanced Air Mobility Test Range that we're working with the FAA. So great event, a lot of opportunity and networking. It was well attended. They even, last I heard, they had to turn away 45 vendors and trying to figure out how they can add vendors next year. Next item, as we've talked about, and it is public, both the public members for Camarillo and Oxnard Airport Authorities and the alternate members, their term expires. We put out November 3rd online. You can do your application, and that continues all the way through December 19th. On here, you see the dates, and the most important is if you're a candidate, you go online, fill out your application. You want to keep Thursday, January 8th open because that's where the live interviews, either in person or online. If you're interested in being a candidate, we usually bring it to the report authorities to do live interviews. And the position then would start, the term technically ends February 28th, 26. So March 1st would be the new term.
Question. Chair.
And I'm sorry, the last item, Cloud9 signage on Las Posas has now changed to the new company, Sky Harbor. So you may see that change of signage along Las Posas. And that's it. Thank you.
Alex? Question.
Madam Chair.
Can the members of the public reapply? Current seated members of the public
Yes,
reapply?
current seated members have not termed out. So yes, they can.
So they need to reapply before they term out.
They do need to reapply and go through the process. It's not automatic if they're incumbents.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I just had a quick question about Sky Harbor. Do you know what, a few months ago, we had before us Cloud9's plans to renovate or tear down hangars over near Channel Islands Aviation. Do you know if Sky Harbor is going to go forward with that?
It's in their lease to do so in the next 3 years. We don't know. I've heard talk of extending that longer and doing it within the 3 years in the span of the last, since they've taken over. So it is in their lease to make improvements in the neighborhood of $20 million on that facility in the next 3 or so years. That's where it stands right now. Yes.
Thank you.
And I actually have a question. What is the status with Hart? Because they've apparently put the engine in the terminal building and
I'm
we've
sorry,
got-
status of who?
of the electric engine company at Oxnard.
Yeah, I haven't gotten an update. You know, startup companies do a lot of hot and heavy and then they park it for a while and, you know, so haven't heard an update recently.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, we should be able to move on to the next section of the agenda. Reports.
No questions?
Any specific questions?
No.
Moving on to correspondence. Any highlights that want to be brought forward? Any questions?
No.
Hearing none. Move on to authority comments. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I apologize. You thought you'd heard the last of me tonight. I have a request, though, for our next meeting in January, that we receive, the authority receives, I guess both authorities, speaking at least for Camarillo, receive a memorandum from County Council regarding the impact, if any, on authority process from SB 707, which is the pretty comprehensive Brown Act legislation that was just adopted and signed by the governor. I suspect that there will not be a significant impact on this authority or perhaps on Oxnard Authority because of the way, because of its formation aspects. But I know that there will be or are anticipated significant impacts for counties, cities, and special districts. So I'd just like to have something from Mr. Temple with respect to what impacts, if any, there are flowing from that legislation. There is also another bill. I think it is SB 829. I apologize, I don't have it, but there's a new, there is also new legislation that was chaptered and signed by the governor. Establishing new public elected officials or officials always have to receive training on ethics under AB 1234, but there's also now a finance component, a public finance component that local electeds need to follow. I don't know how that applies to members of this authority. I don't know whether it applies specifically to counties, cities, and special districts, or whether or not it applies to an authority like this one. Anyway, I'd like to have something from County Council talking about those two new pieces of legislation. Sorry, I don't have the second one. I think it's 829.
Noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, with that, I think we're oh, go ahead.
I would like to compliment the airport authority staff, the two people. Excuse me. I attended the Sea Air Neighborhood Council meeting at the Juan Soria School adjacent to the Oxnard Airport. And there was a presentation by the Oxnard Airport Authority about the controlled electronic testing of flights and where they are and the map that was given. Apparently there's a little better map that was given, more accurate than what was given. But it was tremendously received, and I want to compliment the staff, the two staff people that were there. They fielded some hot questions and they answered the hot questions. Not everybody's always happy with the answers, but I give them credit fielding the questions. There is a tremendous amount of interest in this. When I shared it with some other neighborhoods about it, I believe they're going to get asked to come and make presentations, exactly what's going on. It was a very entertaining presentation, eye-opening and important, I think, for this agency to, and this board to understand you got some staff that are doing a good job going out the field. That's my comment.
Or thank you. That was our two deputy directors, Aaron and Casey attended that. But don't spread the word too much. I mean, that means they got to contend all these meetings. So it's John,
Blunt, totally blunt.
appreciate it.
Known for that and getting hot water from it. The amount of heat that the elected officials in the city of Oxnard got, the airport authority, airport advisory committee, all the people. And when you gave the numbers that were actually here, it's pitiful, pitiful. But on this kind of stuff, when the neighborhood shows up and they show up and the word goes out, hey, did you know about this? Did you know about that? Did you know that there could be some very good paying jobs coming into the city? Did you know? I mean, there's a lot of interest. So spreading the word, because oftentimes people come, nobody told me. That's day late and a dollar short.
Thank you.
If I can add to that, thank you, council member, for bringing it up. I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but I agree with the comments and maybe a suggestion is to go before the inner neighborhood city, sorry, INCO, blanking on the acronym, but the INCO, because then that you're reaching a lot of the neighborhood councils, mainly the board members, the actual council members on the neighborhood boards, but that might be an opportunity to reach a wider audience. And those meetings are also recorded and televised. So just a
Great.
suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Call for adjournment. We do the official motion. Or adjourn. Okay.